I want to bring in Raheem. Here's the central thing. You had a great grandmother. Her son said, "Hey, if you think about going to this the rally with President Trump and on the ellipse and all that," she prayed about it. She left because she didn't believe in the mask and wearing the mask. She took off from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and drove for 2 days. I think she stopped in St. Louis. She went to the J6 event, and what she did is she prayed. She went to pray by herself, not with a big group, by herself. Prayed. Then and it's all on video, through an open door in the Capitol. She walked in. She was there for, I think, 9 minutes. She says 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And she was in the, walked through the rotunda, walked out, prayed, and walked out. For that, Merrick Garland's and Joe Biden's DOJ charged her with 4 misdemeanors, parading on Capitol grounds. And she was protesting and parading on Capitol grounds, which, as Raheem can tell you, because we live in that Capitol Hill neighborhood, happens every day. She was found guilty, and she will serve up to 3 years in a federal prison as a 71-year-old great-grandmother. Now, Raheem, what is quite interesting is that no mainstream media, no MSNBC, no CNN, none of it, that spike the football every day when a J6 person is found guilty, not one peep. They know they jumped the shark on this. They understand how outrageous this is, and they understand how Rebecca Lavrenz can be a rally point for everybody. Said, we've had a belly full of this now, okay? They are political prisoners, and they are hostages. And I point to a great-grandmother who turned her life over to Christ decades ago, that went to the Capitol by herself to pray in the United States of America at the Capitol. And for that, she's sentenced to up to 3 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine. Raheem Kassam, your thoughts, analysis, and observations, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's obviously a major travesty of justice that we're seeing, but much like many of the other Jan 6 cases that simply do not get as much detailed attention as they should be getting. Now, we've been paying attention to Rebecca Lavrenz's case for a while now, going through it with a fine-tooth comb. I've been through the video of her in the Capitol, like you say, no more than 10 minutes, standing in the Capitol, walked through an open door, was even chatting with a police officer as she walked into the Capitol, in video that we will put up at the National Pulse later on today, so that people can see for themselves and judge for themselves. But this goes back to Josh Hammer's point. It goes back to the point you've been making since the beginning of the show. If this were a political campaign versus a political campaign, it would be over already. I think most people are aware of that. Most people recognize that. Most people know that in their hearts. That's why this is not a political campaign versus a political campaign in America in 2024. This is a political campaign, a legal campaign, a lawfare campaign, a cultural campaign, an intersectional campaign, a media campaign, all against a political movement. And it brings to mind that phrase that President Trump brings up every rally and almost every interview, right? He says, they're not after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way. Well, if Rebecca Lavrenz isn't the most critical example of that quote, then I don't know what is. Because this is the regime, this is the state, this is your country persecuting a great-grandmother, by the way, not just a grandmother, a great-grandmother, 71 years old, who walked into a building, by the way, you say correctly. We know this neighborhood very well. I've lived here for nearly 10 years now. I walk inside the Capitol all the time. It's usually open to the public. When Rebecca Lavrenz walked in there, the policemen had their backs to the doors, holding them open, and she chatted with one of them on her way in. And yet what you see here is them, as much as they possibly can, throwing the book at her. This is the maximum number of charges that she could have faced, and it's the maximum number of guilty verdicts that she could have faced. Now, sentencing is on August the 12th. And in sentencing, she faces up to 3 years in jail, as well as up to $250,000 in fines. That's why her lawyers at the NCLU, John Pierce, they have a crowdfunder. We've got a link to it in the National Pulse story, where people can go to Give, Send, Go and contribute to the legal costs of actually pushing back against this. And the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, Steve, is that when the Give, Send, Goes are in the names of the actual people who are facing the charges, Merrick Garland and Joe Biden's DOJ tries to seize those funds. to stop them being able to represent themselves, to stop them having effective legal representation. So that's why the NCLU, this is a campaign in the NCLU, her lawyers' names, so that those funds can't be seized and they can actually go towards representing her legally. So I think they're at something like $45,000 now. They're looking to get $100,000 here. And obviously we broke the story on the National Pulse this morning, per Rebecca Lavrenz's statement, that she will be rightly appealing this verdict. Look, the day after President Trump gave his announcement speech at Mar-a-Lago, I did a bunch of media and I said, look, what's very clear here is that this is not a political battle that people are facing here. This is a spiritual battle that people are facing here. And that was the reason, I think, in my heart, in my, with my political analyst hat on and with my spiritual hat on, that is why when President Trump said in that speech, he usually does, make America, strong again, make America safe again, make America great again. And in that speech, he added, make America glorious again. And I said it at the time, and I've said it many times since, because there is a difference between glory and greatness. And the difference is spirituality. The difference is the fight between good and evil, right? And so that is what this is all about. Of course, you're absolutely correct. I'll reiterate it, not that it needs it. They don't want to put Rebecca Lavrenz's case up on CNN. They don't want to put it up on MSNBC. I'd be very surprised if even Fox News put it up. All these other, corrupt cable news networks, because this is the epitome. It's the epitome of the overreach of the state, of the evil of the state, and it kind of, in a sense, has the ability to turn the entire Jan 6 narrative on its head. If Rebecca Lavrenz is on TV every single day from now until the election somewhere, on the radio somewhere, that's off the table. Jan 6 is off the table. To a head with this. This is really one of the, I think, most critical, most pertinent, and most poignant examples you can give of the Biden regime's persecution of ordinary Americans. And the details of the case, Steve, are even more harrowing. The federal agents turn up at her house. They put her in chains, right? They have her with the stomach chain and the ankle chains. She's 71 years old, poses no threat to anybody, is absolutely making a scene of it, is absolutely making an unnecessary example of her in this regard. But, to come back on something that we were talking about in the last segment, in the last hour, who doesn't want to make an example of it is the mainstream media, is the corporate media. They understand in their hearts that this is, as you said, a jumping of the shark moment, as if there weren't enough already, right? And you want to talk about the J6 committee, who was in charge of that? A man who used to give his succor and support to violent supremacist black nationalist groups. You look at the people who are on that thing. You look at what Karl Rove is saying out there yesterday about these people, how they should be in jail. Karl Rove should be in jail, frankly, for the war crimes that he helped facilitate. But nobody wants to talk about that. I think you can trace a direct line back to Karl Rove and all of those people, and the Douglas Feiths and the George Bushes and all of those guys around back then, who are now sitting up on stages, like you say, paid for their time to opine on ordinary people who decided, hey, God's talking to me about going to the Capitol and saying some prayers quietly in the Capitol building, the public building, the United States Capitol. A building, by the way, for the ladies and gentlemen out there that have never been, I can walk out of my house right now, walk 5 minutes down the street, and walk into the U.S. Capitol building without breaking a single law. And on that day, they decided, hey, we're gonna trick these people into walking in here, and the Biden regime is going to charge them on the way out. And it's disgusting. And it's
that my own country's treating me like a criminal. It's because I believe that they stole my rightful president. And just standing up for my country, it makes me a criminal. And it's just not right. It feels so weird to be here.